out there, everyone. My name is Erik Haaland with David Walters Yachts. Welcome to my podcast, Let's Talk Yachts. Today, we're here in the beautiful sunny island of Grenada. It's in the morning right now. It's just after 9 a.m. It's already getting warm outside. It's about 80 degrees. I think it's going to be about 85 today. There's a great breeze out of the east, which is very consistent here. Today, it's blowing about 15 knots. So even though it's warm, it's plenty nice to be outside and have a great day on the island, or even go out for a sail. There's plenty of boats here right now. Thanksgiving was just last week. Actually, I flew down yesterday on an American flight out of Miami, completely packed. Met actually two of our clients on there. Met with Jake. He has a Cambria 46, and also with Gail. Gail is actually the sister of one of our brokers, Ted Lockwood. She has a Hylas 46 down here on the island, and both boats are getting ready to go back in the water and start off their season. When I'm already in the water, you can see I'm on a boat right now. This is a Hylas 54. She is a 2002. Name is Aeoli. She's the former Bluewater, and before that, Serenity. One of my very favorite boats. I sold this boat to Jeff a year ago, and he and his wife are now switching over, going to a catamaran. And they love the boat. They actually outfitted it to go over to the Med, but they've changed their plans and they're moving on to something a little bit different. So Aeoli is really all set to go. She's for 2002, in impeccable condition. And thanks to the past two owners before Jeff and his wife, that they've really taken care of her. She's always been down here in Grenada since new. She was stored here in the off season. Always been maintained by the same groups. Always cruised the Caribbean. And the boat was outfitted to a very, very high spec. One of the things you might notice behind me is that all the interior woodwork is in a high gloss. A lot of the Hylas 54s were done with a matte finish, so there's definitely a lot of eye-popping woodwork and style in this boat. Even the wood around the frames of the windows up here, that's not very common. All leather headliners, including special heat insulation under the deck that was installed when the boat was built at Queen Long. So there's lots of things that went into Aeoli to make it very special, and also most importantly, a very versatile boat. And that's why we're doing this podcast today. I'm a very big proponent of the Hylas 54 and 56 platforms. I think they're one of the best yachts you can buy in the world for blue water sailing. That's not to say that the Hylas 46, the Hylas 49, the bigger Hylases, the newer Hylases, the Oysters aren't great blue water boats. They all are in their own right. But in my personal opinion, I think that the Hylas 54/56 platform is your best bang for the buck, best all-around boat that you can get to go blue water sailing. And why is that? Because obviously everyone has an opinion out there, so I'm going to give you my opinion. One of the things is versatility. It's a boat that you can go do a circumnavigation on, or seasonally sail in the Caribbean, or seasonally sail in New England. You can do all of those things, and you don't have to circumnavigate this boat. Yes, it can. Yes, many have. But you can still just cruise normally. Go on day sails. Maybe you just want to go out weekending to Block Island. It's a boat that can do all of those things and do it well. A big reason for that is because the boat can be operated by a couple very easily, and you don't have to be highly experienced either. Everything comes back, for the most part, to the cockpit. Unless you're putting up a kite, then you have to go up to the mast. But with everything being on furlers, your Genoa, your staysail, your main typically on these is in-mast furling, you can do everything from the cockpit very easily. You've got a great step-down transom off the back. There are some boats out there that don't have that nice 3-step up. Sometimes it's just a single platform, and then you got a ladder, or sometimes it's just a ladder altogether and you got to climb 5 feet up. And that's easy, at a boat show to say, oh yeah, you can just climb up the ladder, no problem. But imagine you're carrying a 20-pound propane bottle doing that. It's a little bit of a different game. So having that versatility, be able to say, oh, I'm going to the Bahamas, and today I'm going to jump off the back of the boat and go for a swim in the morning, and then hop right back up the steps, hold yourself off of the shower, and you're good to go. It's all that goes into a boat that you can use as a couple, that you're not going to be apprehensive about doing some things while your partner is by himself on the boat, because they can handle everything too. It's a boat that if you're wanting to be crewed, you can do that because it has 3 cabins. Typically the port cabin, which is over here behind this bulkhead, is either a single berth or it's bunks, and you can set that up for either a guest, or a lot of couples use that as a storage closet because it's nice and big, able to put your larger items in there. Or if you have crew, for example, this particular boat here, when it was Serenity, was operated by a full-time captain and a chef, husband and wife team that were aboard the boat the entire high season down here in the Caribbean. So it definitely can be done without a problem. The draft of the boat, most of these are 7'6". The Hylas 56s had a shoal draft version that was about 5.5 feet. And the Hylas 54s, there were 8 of them made that had a centerboard that also drew 5.5 feet. Even with the 7.5-foot keel for a 54-foot boat, it's still relatively shallow draft. And some of you might be shocked, oh my God, that's so deep. And actually it's not. Compared to most of the other brands out there of this ilk, it's relatively shallow draft. If you look out there for most of the performance cruiser type styles out there, they're going to be over 8.5 to over 9.5 feet for a lot of them, especially the Swans out there. So this is a boat that you can relatively easily take to the Bahamas, and most owners do go to the Bahamas with these boats. They don't even venture into the Caribbean. The strength of the boat is, without question, one of the best out there, and still is. The hull is solid glass with a Twaron liner. Twaron is a material like Kevlar. So it's a material that's going to keep the tensile strength of the hull very, very strong. And I know I'm getting some glare here, so I'm just going to rotate myself a little bit this way because the sun's still coming up here. It's coming in the windows now. That's better. So the Twaron liner helps to increase the tensile strength of the hull to help prevent any kind of piercing objects. For example, a floating container. You have a solid glass hull that's as thick as a Hylas. A lot of those things you're just going to bounce right off of. You might ding the gel coat and scrape some glass up, but you're not going to puncture the hull. The keel is solid lead. It's not iron. It's not some sort of other cheaper derivative. It's a real lead keel. And it's bolted on a stump. So on a lot of production boats, you got your hull like this, and the keel is mated directly to the bottom. That's your Beneteau, Jeanneau, most all your production boats, and frankly, the majority of boats built today are built in that style. It's the modern technique of doing it. It's a less costly way of doing it. But on the Hylases, there's actually a stump. So the hull comes down like this, and there's a sump. So if you look down in the bilge, and I'll show you that later, you'll see it's a very deep bilge, and there's actually a sump in there, a sump box that's built into the hull. And so that all sticks below the actual hull like this, and the keel is bolted to that box, that sump box there. So that actually improves the structural rigidity of the boat, because you're thinking, a keel is torquing on the hull back and forth, and you're going upwind especially, it's always torquing a little bit on it. That torque is going into that big structure there. It's not going directly onto the hull itself. So these are not, in the modern sense, a liner boat. You see a lot of boats out there that are built in several pre-made pieces. You got the hull, you got the deck, you've got this interior grid structure that's then bonded, and some manufacturers on the higher end actually re-glass that in. That's not the case here. Everything is glassed into this hull. So you get the hull, and then everything is piece by piece glassed in. So the structure of these boats is very, very, very strong, and that's why they last. This boat's a 2002 and still looks gorgeous. Boats that tend to deflex and bend a little bit over their lives, they tend to deteriorate faster. You start getting cracks and crazing and that sort of stuff. You don't see these with these boats. They're just built that way. They're built to be ocean-going cruisers. Another thing is the rudder. It's a more traditional. It's a partial skeg hung rudder. You don't see that a lot these days. A lot of the reason we'll see that these days is because the materials they use, especially the rudder stocks, are a lot stronger than they used to be. But personally, I do like a partial skeg hung rudder. It gives a little bit more stiffness to that lower half of the rudder. So, if you're a spade rudder, the whole thing is always, but just like the keel, torquing on the hull. But if you got a spade rudder, partial skeg hung rudder, then that only a little portion on the bottom is torquing back and forth so much. The rest of it's nice and sturdy. So it does add a little bit more structural rigidity there to this style of boat. A lot of things about the performance of these boats were a very big majority of the Hylases were designed by Herman Frères, including the 54, the 56, the 46, the 63, the 70, the 66. Only 2 of those were made, kind of a rare breed. But Herman Frères designed all those boats, and even the older ones like the 44s, were all that design. So someone who's the designer of Swan and very many famous racing yachts out there, and also custom performance cruisers, you're in good hands with this design here, and a lot of that leads to the performance of these boats. It's been very well known that these Hylas 54s, 56s, some of them have done the arc rallies and have won handedly. They can easily do 250 plus miles a day. They're easy to get going fast. It doesn't take a lot to get there. Really just fly the telltales. There's not that much more to it. The sheeting angles are all really nice. It's been really well thought out platform to go places, and a lot of owners have refitted their boats into the modern age. This boat is 20 years old. It does have a carbon fiber and aluminum whisker pole. A lot of boats have added bowsprits. I call it a little stinger. It's like a stainless steel tube that goes out through the bow pulpit in order to fly asymmetrical gennaker, like a Code Zero, or some furling asymmetrical spinnaker. So you can do a lot more things with these boats that 20 years ago the technology didn't exist. Now it does. So people are starting to upgrade their boats. Again, it comes back to versatility. These boats are very upgradable. It's not one of those boats which is like you reach the point it's like, oh, it's not worth investing in it. Well, it truly actually is, because these are boats that are still worth well over $500,000 if they're in really good shape. That's because what else is there out there that you can buy in this quality with the lineage and the background and the care and custody that goes into these boats, the materials used? They just stand up to the test of time. You'd be really far-fetched to find a new boat, brand new, from any shipyard of this quality. If you look around, they're all using particle board. They're all using prefab materials. They're all using liners. If you went to custom make this boat today, it would be well over $2 million to custom make this boat. So it says a lot that these boats are going to maintain their value for a very, very long time. Another thing is the systems aboard. The electrical system is USA standard. A lot of it is ABYC. Even though these boats have been built over in Taiwan, they were built for Americans. A lot of other blue water brands, especially the European ones or the ones built in the UK, they're using European systems that have been Americanized. And there's a lot of things that go topsy-turvy when you do that kind of stuff. There's a lot of equipment to add, there's a lot of points of failure, and if you open that electrical panel and it's like, ooh, this is really weird. If you've been used to an American style electrical system, you got to relearn everything. And let me tell you, the European electrical systems, you better bring out the books. There's a lot of intricacies about those that you just don't see over here in the American market, because our systems are frankly a lot simpler. The same thing goes with the plumbing systems. The plumbing is with all SAE size, so it's really easy to get parts commonality. You don't have to really order stuff special from Europe. You can pop in the West Marine and buy a through hull. The through hulls they're Groco, which are made in Severn, Maryland. There's a lot of stuff on these boats which is made specifically for the American customer, that allow you to do the work. Because guess what? When you're down here in Grenada, you're doing most of the work. You've got your tools. You're doing stuff. You're not calling the local guy down here every 5 minutes to fix a leaking tap. You're going to be doing it yourself a lot. So to be able to get those parts easily and readily available is really important. The center cockpit design, I gotta love it, and I hate to say it, it's hard to find these days. A lot of the the yacht market has gone to aft cockpit designs, and that's been driven by demand. You know, there's just more demand for aft cockpit designs. There's less and less people that want to go blue water cruising. And it's kind of sad, you know, or they're going to catamarans. You know, which catamarans work well in the trades, but if you want to go any other place, it's kind of difficult unless you're on an outre-mer with boards. You know, so that's why I like, you know, a monohull. You can go almost every direction, you know, in almost every condition. Can't do that with a multi-hull, unless you have a really, really, really expensive one. So there's a lot to be said about that. Having a center cockpit is a lot of protection from the elements. Frankly, it makes the boat a lot easier to dock, you know, because you're sitting right in the center of the boat over the keel. The boat turns, you're turning with it. You know, it's not like you're on the back part and the boat turns and you're swinging this way, bow's going that way, and it can be kind of disorienting. But when you can see the bow and both corners of the stern, and they're all about the same distance apart, it just makes things really, really simple at that point. And also, if you need to run forward or run aft, you're the same distance away. And it's easier to get forward out of a center cockpit than it is an aft cockpit. Aft cockpit, I got to climb up and over and onto the side deck. Center, you just step over the coaming and go. It's pretty simple. And another thing that has always been timeless here is the shipyard, Queen Long Marine. It's been family owned since the day it was formed. It's on their third generation of ownership right now. And I gotta say, I've talked to a lot of shipyards. I talked to shipyards in Asia, in Europe, in the US. The responsiveness and the level of care and support that Queen Long provides to everyone is phenomenal. I get responses usually within hours, at most 24 hours, on every question I've ever asked. And it could be something as technical as I have a Hylas 70 trying to go behind the owner's home in the northern neck of Virginia, and I need to know to the inch of the draft of that boat. And I actually had the ship loading diagram, the actual plans they gave to the shipping company when that boat shipped to the US in 2010. And I got that 2 years ago just by asking, and they had that, and I knew to the inch of what the draft of that boat was, because every boat's different. Even the same model, they're going to be off an inch or two because of equipment added on a semi-custom boat like this. So it's quite impressive. You know, spare parts, and even if they don't have it, hey, this isn't made anymore, but here's the alternative we've been recommending. Just stuff like that. You know, being able to call someone and they pick up the phone and they speak to you in English, or email them, and that kind of special relationship is really, really key. The owners group, all the owners love their boats and they love to hang out together. I know right now in Antigua, there's probably about 15 Hylases all together there right now, and I know they're all hanging out, and I have some clients on the way, they're like, they can't wait to get there. That seems to be, at least this year in the 24-25 winter season, Antigua seems to be Hylas headquarters right now. So if you're looking to hang out with some good folks, go there. There's everything from 70s, 57s on down to 46s and 44. So go hang out, have some fun. And that, again, all comes back around into the resale value of these boats. It's unmatched. You try and go and find another blue water yacht brand out there that has all of everything I've just said into one basket. Doesn't exist. I mean, there's a lot of brands get close. You know, Oyster is a really great brand. I love them. They're fantastic. You know, I think they've got a great following, and they've got some beautiful designs. You know, their electrical system, you know, is complicated, you know, for sure. It's not an American-based one, so there is some intricacies there. And of course, there's been some turmoil in the brand in the past several years with changes of ownership, and you know, a couple of things that happened in the market. I'm not going to go, you know, in depth into that, but it's a strong brand, and it's another. I'm a fan of the brand for sure. I think, you know, if I was talking to a European right now about doing some certain plans, like where they want to go and how they want to use their boat, I probably would be steering them right towards an Oyster. But if I'm talking to an American and they want to go blue water cruising, I'm going to steer them to a Hylas, just because of, you know, what the brand offers and what it can do. So so that's my spiel right there. I've said a lot. So what I'm going to do now is we're actually going to go on a in-depth tour of the Hylas 54 here. and you're going to see a lot of cool things. You're going to see a lot of upgrades that Jeff has done to this boat to make it super special, super, modern, setup, for a boat that was built in 2002. I mean, she's 22 years old now. And this is a boat that, in not too many years is going to be 30. And you look at what it offers you, and you're going to see, wow, in 8 years, this boat's not going to look that much different. And that's why the resale value maintains. I mean, you look at the older little harbors, look at, the 1980s little harbor 53s. The really good ones are still selling for north of $500,000. And the reason why is because they were built really well. And actually, they were built down the street from Hylas in Taiwan. So, you're probably getting the sense here that that's a really good place to build boats. But a good designer, a great following. You've had excellent shipyard support, and you found yourself the platform you want to be on. So let's go for a tour. So one of the parts I mentioned already was the electrical system on the Hylas 54, 56 platform, and all the other Hylases. It's the same system. You'll see different variations of this system depending on the boat. Some of these panels are here, some are here, some are up here, and on even the same models, because these boats are built semi-custom. As the owner building the boat, you can move things around a little bit here and there to suit your interests and needs. The original owner, when it was Serenity, decided to have his DC panel here and his AC panel down here, and then have their battery panel right here. So as you can see, everything's really nicely labeled. And as the boats got newer, some newer panels were put in, and these days, there's a lot more digital switching that goes in and that sort of stuff. But, just the general layout, really nicely done labels, very easy to tell things are on and off. And then, the real coup de grace is, how things were done wiring-wise. I mean, that's the wiring from 2002, and look at that, that's all original. So it's 22 years old and everything is perfect. There's no rust, there's nothing on it. It's done as it should be. So if you keep things in good nick, they last a very long time. And that's how, Hylas has done it. It's how they build these boats, is with top quality materials. Again, everything's really easy to label, see what it does and how it operates. So it's not hard, when I'm showing, how these systems work to a new owner, to explain what does what. Usually I can get through the electrical system in about 15-20 minutes. So it's not hard to figure out and what it does. Now this boat does have some upgrades. There are some extra switches over here for your shore power system, because Aeoli was upgraded with a European system for shore power. So it has a transformer, it has a 32 amp 230 volt European shore power inlet, and it also has the USA 50 amp 125 250 inlet that's standard on these boats. So by flipping this switch right here, you can easily select, oh, I want to be on European power or on USA power, and then there's a transformer on the European side, so that the boat itself thinks it's in the US, even though it would be in Europe. Oh, another part of the upgrade was the Victron inverter. So it's got a 3,000 watt inverter aboard. There is a Servo GX display right here. There's also just over 1 kilowatt of solar on the back of the boat. There's three 360 watt panels back there, so you can see right now we're taking in sun and we're putting into the batteries, and there's also some stuff from shore power coming in because we have the air conditioning on right now. So that's all looking really nice, and you can easily tell what's doing what on the boat. There's also battery monitors right here for the house bank, and then for the thruster bank. The thruster bank also does the furler motors for the hydraulic furling system. You can see here we got a new Icon VHF, Rain touchscreen plotter, Fusion stereo. There's even a spot here we can put in an iPhone bipod, but that's actually an upgraded Fusion stereo that Jeff did. So that's fully Bluetooth and AirPlay. Tank monitor, instrument here, so you can tie into the system and see what's going on with wind and depth and speed. You can even tie in wirelessly to the plotter, so if you have a laptop, you can put it here and hook things in. You've even got power here you can plug into a iPhone or other power supply. So we're down here in the engine bay now, which on these boats it's always been fantastic access. You know, first of all, you got this huge opening door right at the foot of the companionway, so you got great ability to get down to your belts, your alternator, get your fuel rail over there, your Yanmar engine filter right there. You know, everything's really easy to label. That's your whole fuel rail diagram right there. Tells you the returns and the feeds, where things go. You can even start and stop the engine from down here if you're doing maintenance, or something happened to the control panel up on deck, you can control from down here. And there's even a backup freshwater pump control right here. Yes, there are two 12-volt freshwater pumps aboard, a primary and a backup. The primary is triggered over there, the backup's triggered over here. Why are they in separate places? Good question. Well, the reason is safety. Let's say something happened to that panel over there. God forbid a fire happened, that panel was knocked out. Oh, I still need a drink, and I'm 1,000 miles from land. There you go. There's a wholly separate electrical supply for the secondary water pump. So this engine is the MR4LH HTE. It's the 140 horsepower variant. It's in very, very good nick for the age. I mean, just look at the exhaust elbow and the turbo. Looks absolutely fantastic. It's been very, very well maintained. It's got a little under 5,400 hours on it. These engines have been known to go over 10,000 easily. So she's got a ton of life left in her. It's also, you know, the 140, in my opinion, is a really preferred power plant in these boats. A lot of these boats had like the 125s and the 100s. I think the 100s is a bit underpowered for it. The 125 did all right, but the 140, especially if you're going to be in the Caribbean where there's a lot of, you know, surf, there's a constant breeze every day, it's the right way to go. So you can see over here we've got the manual bilge pump, which is right next to the nav station. Great place to be. So when you're pumping it, you can see what's going on down the bilge, which is actually under the cabin sole. Take a look at that in a little bit. That comes closed. You can lock this with a winch channel so it won't pop up. I've actually never had this pop open, but you never know. So always good practice to lock it. I love these opening doors all the way around. These doors are actually just on pop-off hinges. You can pull straight up. They pull right off. You see the engine fuel filters down there, the generator rate core, and there's also an oil change pump system built onto this engine. You can see a lot of the hoses have been replaced with new recently, so yeah, she's been really well maintained. Coming back behind this door here, there we go. Again, the same type of style doors, they pop right off. You'll see there's a brand new this year Northern Lights 6 kilowatt generator. It's got about 100 hours on it, so this puppy's going to last you, oh, I don't know, another 20 or so years. So that thing's good to go. You can also see, oh, look at that, it's a watermaker. That's a brand new Schenker Zen 150 liter per hour watermaker. So again, that's good to go for the next 20 years. So a lot of upgrades have been done to this boat recently to make it very viable for long-term voyaging. You can see there's a lot of room in there for extra equipment. You can see some of the watermaker equipment here that's been added in. The old watermaker, if I recall correctly, was driven off the generator, the old generator, so it was a whole massive contraption here. But now that this has been switched out, the components are a bit smaller, they're more modern, so you have a lot more space now, which is great to have. And you can see I popped one of the floorboards off here in the Salon. We're taking a look at one of the fuel tanks. Now, Aeoli carries 291 gallons of fuel and 164 gallons of fresh water. Now, you'll see these numbers are different from boat to boat because you could specify which tanks you wanted to be fresh and fuel when you originally bought this boat. So some boats will have more water, less fuel, back and forth. Me personally, I like carrying a bit more fuel. I've got a water maker. I can always make more water. This is what these tanks look like. Now, they're made out of 3 or 4 stainless steel. All the tanks, except for the 2 holding tanks, there's 54 gallons total in holding, and GRP tanks. But these are stainless steel for the fuel and the water. They're really well built. They're built there locally in Taiwan, near where the boats are built. You can see there's a really nice big inspection hatch here, which you can open up to get access inside for cleanouts and that kind of thing. There is you can see the sensor here, so there is a sensor for a level. There's also a dipstick, so if you untwist this right here, you actually pull that up, and I can readily see that tank is about 3/4 full. You can see where it was dark there, and I'll put it back in. So even if your sender, your electric sender, was on the fritz, you still have a way of getting in that tank and taking a peek around. So we're at the base of the companionway here, and we're taking a look at the basement. So this is the bilge of the Hylas 54, and you can see there's a good bit of stuff in here, and there's also a good bit of space. So over on this side, you can see we've got one of the bilge pumps right there. That's a diaphragm pump, and then there's one of those regular plastic pumps down there as well. And then there's a high water alarm, and then you have the manual bilge pump. So you've got a lot of things that will go off before you take a lot of water on board. So it's really easy to get down there for maintenance. You could even stand in there if you had to. It's quite a big space. You can see here the keel bolts, which are absolutely massive. They're in really, really nice shape. You got the backing plates right there. And nicely enough, you know, all the water gets down at that sump and then gets pumped over the sides. There's no like flat bilge part here. It all flows in there really nice. There's limber holes up on the outsides of these stringers here to enable water to flow, or any kind of moisture that gets on the inside of the hull. You know, being in the Caribbean with air conditioning running, you're always going to get moisture that generates. There's always going to be water in your bilge. But you can see everything here is really easy to get to. Even additional hatches here. There's part of the air conditioning system right there. It's really, really well done. And then you look at the floorboards, and the floorboards have pins in them, so they actually lock into place. So when they're locked in, you can't pull it up. Again, a great safety feature while offshore. So we're up here in the forward cabin, and you can see that this style is the island berth as opposed to the V berth. So the island berth gives you a little bit more room around the sides here in order to go up into the bed, and the bed's actually stuck out a bit more instead of pushed back some. So there's more bed space, and there's actually more space to walk around here than a traditional V berth. I know some people out there like a V berth, but you know, they're kind of going by the wayside. So this is the more modern sense, and even for a boat made in 2002, it's the right way to go in my opinion. And you get lots and lots of storage in here. You know, I like the cabinets up here, and these shelves, actually, they're not very typical on the 54, so that was a custom add-on when it was built. So good place to put books. You can see the high gloss varnish is almost like a mirror on the forward bulkhead. It's absolutely fantastic. You got 2 nice handholds here, port and starboard. Great to grab onto. The leather headliner is absolutely beautiful with the LED lighting. Look at that gorgeous manship hatch up there. All the deck hatches on Aeoli are brand new this year. So, and I'm not talking just the lens, I'm talking the whole hatch itself is brand new. You can see the stainless is just, it's perfect. It's all set to go. The hatch frames have all been nicely varnished. What a beautiful day in Grenada. We should go to the beach later, huh? I'll take you on a tour. Got a hanging locker here on the port side, and as well on starboard. There's a fan there, and there's an air conditioner dedicated for this area. And I didn't really mention the air conditioning yet. That's also brand new. It's Webasto FCF, and this is a 5-unit boat. And you're like thinking, wow, 5 units, is that normal? No, it's not actually. Typically on these boats, it's 3. So you have 5 units. You have 1 here, 1 in the port cabin, 2 in the salon, and then 1 in the aft cabin. It's a tropical level air conditioning, which down here in Grenada, it's nice to have, that's for sure. It's a nice 72 degrees in here right now, so it's absolutely gorgeous. You see there, and that's your panel for your anchor windlasses and your bow thruster. I'll show you the windlasses later, and I said windlasses, there's actually 2 of them. So we'll take a look at that in a bit. So this is the forward head here. really nicely appointed. The white Formica with the high gloss really stands out. The Corin countertops, which are not original, those were redone a few years back, and the faucets as well. They look really good. Vacuum flush heads. So you got a fiberglass pan here, as well as in the shower with a teak grate with your shower sump pump float beneath it. There's a flip down teak grate right there. Give you a place to sit. We're coming into the port side guest cabin now. Otherwise can be used as a crew cabin or storage. You see we have some bunks here. Nice handhold to get into. And now a lot of these boats were done very custom in here. So some of these boats had a higher bunk that had a slide out partition to make this one big berth, and it didn't have this locker here, and they didn't have the upper bunk, so it was just a big single, or they had just the lower one and no top bunk at all, or they had a folding bunk. Me personally, I like this set the best because it gives you room to get in here. You do have 2 bunks, and you can actually sleep 2 adults in here. And a hanging locker here. Now, this boat, originally when it was Serenity years ago, was operated by a 2-person crew. So this was their cabin. This was their crew cabin for their entire season. It's very nicely done. There's a nice big hatch up here that can be used as access to the deck in an emergency. Again, this is really, really well done. So this is one of my favorite things about Aeoli, is that the wraparound dinette. And I've had this comment from a lot of people I've shown Hylases to, is that I wish I could sit more people at the dinette. Well, in this boat you can. So being a semi-custom nature, Queen Long could build these boats with a lot of features that the owners would have wanted. Well, this one, when it was Serenity, they wanted more space around the dinette, and they got it. So they have a nice table here, this burlwood table, teak table, absolutely gorgeous. And then this dinette wrap around here. So you truly could seat 6 people here for dinner. Now, some of the boats you'll see, they may have a slider here, this ottoman / bench that would slide up, back and forth. It doesn't have it on this boat because it has the wraparound seating. If you wanted to sit one more person here, well, someone could sit on the companionway steps, or you could add a little chair here if you wanted to add a 7th. I'm not sure why you would, because, it's just, there's too many people at that point. It's one of those things. What's a couples cruising boat for? It's dinner for 6, it's cocktails for 6, dinner for 4, and cruising for 2. Well, with this, you actually could have dinner for 6. So really nice setup. You see back here, we've got a couple lockers. Nice hull side port light there to get a view outside and some more light. Pan around here on the starboard. You see we got some more lockers, a bookshelf. We have the starboard side settee / sea berth, because this partition here, this lower bench actually slides out about 8 inches. So you can actually sleep someone here when they're off watch or just relaxing. Again, more fans. You got some barometers and a clock up there. There's a TV behind this that actually flips up, and there's a TV inside. Very nicely done. Moving into, actually we'll go back to the nav station here for a sec. You can see it does a nice handhold here. There's a handhold here. There's one here. There's one here. There's one there. Up there. I think you've got enough handholds in this boat for sure. So, another comment a lot of people have, and there's more there, is lack of handholds in modern boats. Well, you'll see there are plenty here. This is a real offshore boat. And look at all the rounded edges, Do you see a sharp 90-degree edge anywhere? Because I sure don't. You're bouncing around offshore, on any boat. It could be a Beneteau, it could be a catamaran, it could be a Hylas, it could be an oyster. When I hit stuff, I'd rather not have a sharp point hit me. So, that's the beauty of having these rounded edges. Now, why don't a lot of boats have rounded edges anymore? Well, it's cost, it's money. It's really easy to have prefab 90-degree angles that come together because they just fit right and they walk away and they're done. This is done by hand. All this sanding and varnishing and everything else, that's all done by hand. It takes hours and hours and hours of work to do that kind of stuff. So let's go into the galley. Now, this is another benefit of having the center cockpit. is you typically get this passageway galley, which rivals those of aft cockpit 65-footers. It's just amazing. You just look at the countertop space. Now, I've got my bag and stuff over there, but that countertop goes all the way over towards the nav station. Look at that. That's awesome. You get this huge sink, all new faucets. You got some drinking water taps. You've got your seawater pump tap. And then you spin around and it just keeps going and going and going. So there's plenty of room. If you had a whole crew in here cooking or having dinner, you could do it all. Not a problem. There's a trash can right here. There's even a cutting board that comes out. Look at that right there. Perfect. Bring it out. You know, put your charcuterie on, just bring it over to the table, bring it up into the cockpit. When you're done, you just slide it in, and it's even got a little lip, so it won't fall out. It's a really nice setup. All the cabinetry is really well done. Got a microwave there. Got a beautiful broadwater oven and range right there. Really nice. It's gimbaled. It's even got a little bar here to protect yourself from getting into the stove. And, you know, if you're at sea, well, you just lean back against this right here and you're good to go. You're not going anywhere. There's more and more storage all throughout. And you've got this, little slide outs there. So you have all your, dinner mats. Got stuff for your water maker right there. Got the pantry, all your spices, all your oils. Got spots for all your cutlery and stuff. I mean, everything is just has a home. It's really nicely done. Refrigeration, well done on this boat. Very well done. There are 2 refrigerators and a freezer. This one here is top loading and front loading. Then you have front loading and another front loading. Now these have all been recently upgraded. They're all Seafrost 12-volt DC cold plate systems. So they are top of the line. And yeah, everything is really, really nicely done, easy to access. This one's definitely the freezer. There we go. Oh yeah, it's definitely working. So really nicely done in the galley. It's one of my favorite parts about this boat. Headroom in here is actually really good. I am 6'2". It's got about 6'4" headroom with your shoes off. So it's still really viable for a lot of people. If you're 7 feet tall, maybe you should be looking at a 70-footer, but they don't build boats for basketball players very often. But for a galley in a center cockpit boat, pretty darn fantastic. And here we go into the aft cabin. This is the owner's suite. See, it's beautifully appointed. That starboard side hanging locker. You have a seat on starboard and on port. Bookshelves all around. An extra large queen berth. With even more drawers beneath it. And there's another hanging locker here on the front bulkhead. So very, very nicely appointed. A large overhead hatch. You've got 4 opening port lights in here and a deck hatch above. So plenty of ventilation if you're anchored out in the Bahamas. It's really, really nicely done in here. I gotta say, big props to when this aft cabin was designed. Through this door over here, there I am, coming into the aft head. So very similar to the forward head, but it's bigger. So it's wider in this direction here. So you have more room to get around in the front head, but really nicely appointed. Again, similar mirror and lighting setup, same countertops, vacuum flush head, shower, and then the door here, which goes back up to the saloon. Now, you don't see this on very many of the newer Hylas 54s and 56s, but I personally like it a lot because if I'm coming off watch down the companionway and I got dripping wet foul weather gear, I can turn left, I can look at the nav station, look at my electronics, I can go right into the shower and take off my foul weather gear. I don't have to traipse it all the way through the boat. So I like it a lot, and actually it does aid to the ventilation of the boat a good bit as well. So, and I like the forward-facing nav station. You know, on the newer model 54s, the nav station will be facing the port side, with a swing out chair, and it just made this area feel kind of tight and kind of like no one should ever go there except for the owner kind of thing. This makes it a more viable, I can pass through. I got a nice long bench seat here, and if I was in a really big seaway, yeah, I could put a strap here, hold myself up. You know, it's not a big deal, but it's the way it should be in my opinion. So we moved upstairs into the cockpit now. We're going to take a tour here and of the rest of the deck. And I apologize if you can't hear me quite clearly, even though I've got the dead cat on the microphone. The dead cat's the fuzzy end on the microphone. It's on my lapel. It is breezy today. It's blowing probably about almost 20 at times in here. And I can see over here to the left, it looks like we may have had some people doing the arc. They have finished. I see an ARC flag over there. I see a quarantine flag. It looks like they may have just arrived. So welcome to Grenada. The European contingent is arriving. I see more ARC flags over there. It looks like a bunch of boats have just arrived. I might have to go down and say hi later. But we'll finish up this tour here first. So look around the cockpit. I love a good center cockpit. There's plenty of room in here to have 6 people lounging about. Sitting here, there's a flip-up teak table right in front of the drink holder there. Great spot here at the helm, a great visibility forward. It's absolutely a fantastic boat to sail. And if I'm standing up here, I get a great view forward and while I'm seated right here. And if I want to look out and see the Genoa, I can. So plenty of opportunity all around. A few things about the helm here. We got the bow thruster controls. So a side power bow thruster. It's got a compass. You got room here. You can put a smartphone or a small tablet. You've got the chart plotter up there. Personally, I like it up there. If I'm standing watch, you know, offshore, I'm sitting under the Dodger. I'm not behind the helm. And my autopilot control is right there. So it's really easy just to sit there in the protection of the Dodger and not be in the way of stuff. You got all your instruments. You got your ring instrumentation there. Nice big numbers, easy to see. You got your engine controls here on the right. You got your furling controls for the staysail. You got your furling controls for the Genoa. And then you got your main sheet furling controls will be up there because that's your outhaul right there, that outhaul line coming back. These nice cockpit cushions are really comfy. Got some pillows here. I love the teak flooring better than the grates. The grates just fall apart over time. The teak flooring is so much nicer. So we're going to step out here. I'm going to go to the aft deck first. See, one of the things that pops up first is going to be the beautiful 1 kilowatt solar array and that Starlink antenna. So those were just added. That was done down here in Grenada. Great stainless steel metalwork. And even at my height, 6'2", I can still walk under this. So I can get right into the dinghy and actually provides a good bit of shade to the tender. And you have this frame here. So if you wanted to hang a few things off it, you could. I mentioned the step-down transom a lot. I love this setup. Got a really beefy ladder there. It's nice and wide, and when it's down, there's little sleeves that go over the hinges, so that if you got like dive tanks on or that kind of thing, you step on the ladder doesn't go under the boat. It stays straight up and down. So it's a really, really great sturdy setup. All these teak planks here, these are all brand new. This was just redone. This is looking really nice. I love the solid bar here instead of lifeline gates in the swing right there. Just make this a much more sturdy place to hang on to. See, we got the 25 horsepower Yamaha outboard there. There's also a backup 6 horsepower. So plenty and plenty of things to get you around. I hear a lot of horns going off over there. I guess to get the welcoming committee going on for the ARC rally. We've got these flip down teak seats here. They screw up in addition when they're not being used. Otherwise, flip it down. Boom. Got a nice place to sit. And we got a Magma propane barbecue. And there's a propane hose that comes out of there and plugs into the side. So this stays here pretty much permanently. Hook it up anytime. Going around deck, you can see we got this beautifully varnished tow rail and handrails here. As well, the non-skid, which just repainted this year. and the whole boat, the deck, the hull, the rig was all repainted a few years back. So all of it is gleaming. And she looks like a brand new boat ready to go to a boat show. I mean, just look at the gloss. Really well done. Just looking around, you know, the stainless steel is gleaming. You know, these boats were built to impress and built to stand the test of time. Really well done. We see here the sail plan. We got the main staysail and Genoa, all which were brand new a couple years back. Brand new manship hatches. Just look at that. Just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it really does look like a boat ready to go into a boat show today. Moving forward, down here, this is the sail locker. See in there, it's very deep. I can actually stand up in there and close the hatch of my head, it's that deep. But great place for your lines, your fenders, or if you had a furling Gennaker or something. See here the staysail furler. I love hydraulic furling. It just makes things so much simpler, less complicated than the electrical system, and they last for a very long time. See here we have dual windlass. It's a pretty unique setup on this boat. Most boats of this size just have one. The port one is being used on the primary with a brand new anchor and rode. The starboard one is in place, but the motor is stored down below to keep it out of the elements. So if you had to use it, you can bring it up. It does work. It just, the motor is not connected to it. And then you have the anchor chain down there. And you had this other storage area for, you know, your snubber gear and other dock lines. Woo! Crazy day. We should go for a sail. Maybe press it double digits. The Hylas 54 today, not a problem. We definitely would have a reef in the main. But this boat would be sailing like a dream right now, especially in the flat water on the lee of the island in this breeze. Well, there you have it, folks. That is the tour of the Hylas 54. Hope you enjoyed her. She's in fantastic condition. It is one of my favorite designs. I think that if you're looking to go blue water sailing, for the size and capabilities for couples cruising, you can't really match it for the resale value, for everything else. It hits all the boxes. So if you're interested in this or any other boat, feel free to give me a call. Again, my name is Erik Haaland with David Walters Yachts, and my cell phone is 410-279-3027. I am also on WhatsApp with the same number, and my email is Erik, ERIK, @davidwaltersyachts.com.